The night was burning. The city that once gleamed with glass towers and digital lights was now nothing but a graveyard of smoke and screams. Sirens wailed somewhere far off, swallowed by the thunder of collapsing steel. Ethan Voss stumbled through the ruins, half limping, half dragging his battered body forward. His combat suit was torn, its power core flickering faintly like a dying heartbeat. He'd been running for hours, but not from the enemy. No, he was running from the orders he'd refused to follow. Once, he was a soldier for Helix Corp, Earth's largest private military and biotech conglomerate. He'd been trained to follow commands without question, to obey even when those commands felt wrong. But tonight was different. Tonight, the screams weren't from soldiers, they were from families, from children. And that was something Ethan couldn't unsee. He stopped near the crumbled remains of a hospital, leaning against a wall that was barely standing. His breath came in short, ragged bursts, and his mind reeled with exhaustion. He was ready to collapse when he heard it, a sound so faint he thought it was just the wind. But then it came again, a soft whimper. A child's cry. Hello. His voice was hoarse, breaking the silence. No answer. Just the flicker of blue light ahead, like a pulse beneath the debris. Instinct took over. Ethan dropped his rifle to the ground and began digging through the rubble, pushing aside chunks of concrete and twisted metal until he saw her. She wasn't human. Her skin shimmered like starlight, pale silver with faint veins of light tracing beneath the surface. Her eyes were large and luminescent, glowing softly even in the dim chaos around them. She looked terrified, clutching something close to her chest, a small metallic shard shaped like a heart, pulsing with an inner rhythm. Ethan froze. "You're a child," he whispered. The alien flinched at his voice, backing away, trembling. Her small chest rose and fell rapidly as if she expected him to hurt her. But Ethan did the opposite. He lowered his weapon completely and extended a hand. "It's okay," he said softly. "I'm not gonna hurt you." The child blinked, tilting her head slightly as if trying to understand his words. Her lips moved, but the sound that came out wasn't anything human, it was melodic, layered, echoing. Yet somehow, deep in his mind, he understood. A single word formed in his thoughts. Help. That was all she said before she slumped forward, exhausted. Before Ethan could react, a familiar sound shattered the fragile calm, the rhythmic stomp of boots. Heavy, synchronized, mechanical. Helix Corp strike unit. His stomach dropped. He looked up to see armored silhouettes emerging from the smoke, weapons glowing with a telltale blue hue. Subject located, one of them barked through his helmet. Retrieve the alien asset. Terminate any unauthorized personnel. Ethan's pulse spiked. He knew that voice. Sergeant Crail, his former commanding officer. Crail stepped forward, his armor gleaming in the firelight. "Step away, boss," he ordered. "That thing's property of Helix Corp. Classified research specimen. You're trespassing on a recovery zone." Ethan glanced back at the child, small, fragile, terrified. Then he looked at Crail and the soldiers flanking him, weapons raised. "She's a kid," Ethan said quietly. "You're not taking her anywhere." Crail laughed, a cold, metallic sound through the helmet's modulator. "You've gone soft. That thing isn't a kid. It's an experiment that wiped out an entire research colony. Move aside." Ethan tightened his grip on his rifle. "No." The word was soft but final. "Then die with it," Crail snapped. The first plasma bolt screamed through the air. Ethan dove sideways, rolled, and returned fire. The battle was chaos, blue light flashing against the rain, metal against flesh, the smell of ozone thick in the air. Ethan's old training kicked in. Every shot was precise, every move instinctive. But there were too many of them. He ducked behind a collapsed wall, heart hammering, and glanced at the child. She was crouched low, watching him with wide eyes. "Stay down," he yelled. She clutched the metallic shard tighter, and for a moment it began to glow brighter, as if reacting to her fear. Then something strange happened. The world seemed to shiver. For a heartbeat, Ethan saw flashes that weren't real, or maybe they were. Cities of crystal under alien suns. Armies of luminous beings standing beneath constellations he couldn't name. And at the center of it all, a symbol, two circles intertwined around a single shining core. A voice whispered inside his skull, not in words but in meaning. "Protect the seed, and you will awaken what you are meant to be." The vision vanished, replaced by pain. A plasma blade tore through his side. He grunted, spun, and shot the soldier point blank. Another came from behind. Strike, burn, blood. Ethan fought like a cornered animal, but there was no escaping the inevitable. One stab. Two. Then another. By the time he reached 18, his legs gave out. He fell to his knees, coughing blood, body shaking violently. The world around him blurred into shadow and fire. The child crawled toward him, tears of light streaming down her cheeks. She touched his arm and whispered something in her alien tongue. The metallic shard between her hands pulsed brighter, casting a silver glow over his broken body. For a moment, he thought he heard her voice inside his head again, clearer this time. Do not be afraid. The light remembers those who bleed for it. The last thing Ethan saw before the darkness claimed him was Krail raising his weapon, and the child vanishing in a sudden explosion of light, taking the battlefield with her. Then everything went still. Ethan expected the void, the silence of death. When Ethan opened his eyes, he thought he was dreaming. The first thing he noticed was the light, warm, golden, and impossibly pure. It streamed through vast trees made of glass like crystal, their leaves shimmering in colors that didn't exist on Earth. The air smelled faintly of ozone and rain, humming softly like it carried a pulse of its own. He lay on a bed of silver moss, smooth and cool beneath his skin. His wounds, 18 of them, were gone. No scars, no pain, only a faint tingling, as though his body had been rewired. Slowly, he sat up. The armor he'd died in was gone, replaced by a soft black fabric that seemed alive, shifting slightly with his movements. His surroundings stretched endlessly, a horizon of floating islands suspended in a pale sky with 3 suns. Birds with translucent wings glided through the air, leaving trails of light behind them. What the hell? He murmured, pressing a hand against his chest. His heartbeat echoed, strong, steady, but beneath it, he felt something else. A rhythm not his own. Commander Voss of Earth, said a voice. Ethan turned sharply. A figure stood a few paces away, tall and cloaked in silvery armor that gleamed like moonlight. The being's eyes glowed faintly, and when it moved, the air itself seemed to bend around it. Behind the first one were dozens more, warriors clad in luminous armor, kneeling in perfect formation. Their faces, though humanoid, carried a divine symmetry, features both alien and impossibly beautiful. Ethan blinked. Commander, I think you've got the wrong guy. I'm not. The lead warrior stepped forward, lowering to one knee. The prophecy of Elithra is fulfilled, he said solemnly. The guardian who bled for the air has awakened. Ethan stared, trying to process what he was hearing. The what now? Another voice, softer but commanding, spoke behind him. The guardian of the seed, it said. Ethan turned to see a woman, or something close to one. Her hair was white as snow, floating slightly as if gravity obeyed her differently. Her eyes glowed gold, and a faint halo of energy shimmered around her. You died protecting the heir of Elithra. Your sacrifice bound your life to the core of the Guardian. Ethan took a step back. I didn't protect anyone. I just stopped some killers. And I did die, in case you missed that part. The woman smiled gently. You did. And yet, here you stand. Do you not feel it? He opened his mouth to argue, but then stopped. His pulse wasn't his alone anymore. The hum in the air grew louder, syncing with the rhythm inside his body. He looked down at his hands and saw faint lines of blue light coursing beneath his skin, branching like veins of lightning. His fingertips glowed briefly before dimming again. What the hell did you people do to me? He demanded. The golden-eyed woman extended her hand toward him. Not we. You. When the air touched you, she awakened what was dormant, the Guardian's energy, passed through the core. The 18 wounds you suffered became the 18 conduits of rebirth. Pain was your crucible. Now you are forged. Ethan wanted to laugh. Forged. I'm just a soldier. I didn't ask for this prophecy nonsense. A voice interrupted from behind the circle of warriors, a smaller, familiar one. You didn't have to ask. Ethan turned. His breath caught. It was her, the alien child. Only now, she wasn't a child anymore. She stood tall, her skin glowing with the same silver light, her eyes deeper and wiser, like galaxies turning within them. A delicate crown of crystal rested upon her head. The small metallic shard she had once held pulsed softly at her chest. You, Ethan breathed. How are you alive? She smiled faintly. Because you chose to protect me. You bled for me. The core recognized you as guardian. She stepped closer, and the air shimmered where she moved. The galaxy owes you its existence, Ethan Voss. He swallowed, struggling to find words. I didn't save the galaxy. I just saved you. Exactly, she said softly. And that changed everything. The warriors rose in unison as the ground beneath them began to tremble. Ethan looked around. One of the suns dimmed, its light swallowed by a spreading shadow. In the distance, black shapes cut through the sky, massive ships, each larger than a city, their hulls reflecting no light. The golden-eyed woman's expression hardened. The Dravith fleets, she said. They followed the heir's trail. They mean to finish what Helix Corp began. Ethan frowned. You mean my people, not your people, the heir said quietly. Only their greed. She raised her hand, and her crown pulsed with light. A holographic star map appeared in the air, a vast network of worlds, systems, and battlefronts burning in red. They seek the core that lies within you now. To them, it is power. To us, it is life. Ethan stared at the map, at the fleets approaching. So, what, you expect me to fight them? The woman with golden eyes nodded once. You are no longer merely human. The Guardian's essence grants command over the Elithran host. You are meant to lead. Ethan laughed hollowly, shaking his head. Lead? I couldn't even keep my own squad alive back on Earth. The heir stepped closer, resting her hand on his shoulder. Her touch was warm, electric. You led with heart, not orders. That is why the core chose you. Before Ethan could respond, a shockwave rippled through the sky. The largest enemy ship had entered orbit, casting a shadow across the floating islands. The Elithran warriors raised their weapons, blades of light and sound that hummed like living energy. The heir's eyes burned with defiance. Helix Corp's army has awakened the Dravith, she said. And now, Guardian, you must awaken yourself. Ethan looked at the horizon, at the descending ships, then back at her. The ground pulsed beneath his feet. He felt the same power that had once nearly killed him now begging to be released. He clenched his fists. The lines of light under his skin flared brighter. He didn't understand any of this, prophecies, heirs, or alien wars, but he knew one thing. He wasn't going to let the world burn again. He took a deep breath and looked at the kneeling warriors. All right, he said finally. Let's finish what we started. The heir smiled. Then rise, Guardian of Elithra. The sky burned with twin colors, gold and shadow, as the first wave of enemy ships descended upon the floating world of Elithra. Ethan stood at the forefront of the radiant army, his heart pounding with a mix of awe and dread. Thousands of Elithran warriors waited behind him, their weapons gleaming with energy drawn from the stars themselves. He could feel them, every heartbeat, every spark of resolve, connected to him through the strange power that now pulsed in his veins. Above, the dark fleet of the Dravith blotted out one of the suns. Their ships weren't built, they looked grown, like metal fused with bone, pulsing with an eerie red glow. Ethan could sense their malice even from here. They were alive, and they wanted him. The heir of Elithra stood beside him, her crown flickering with faint light. They've come for the core within you, she said quietly. But they don't understand, it is bound to the Guardian's will now. They cannot take it unless you surrender. Ethan gritted his teeth, scanning the sky. Then they'll learn the hard way. The first salvo hit, a rain of molten plasma that lit the sky in fire. But before the blasts could reach the surface, Ethan raised his hand instinctively. The world answered. Blue light surged upward, forming a shimmering dome that absorbed the explosions like ripples in water. The impact reverberated through his bones, but he held firm. Gasps echoed among the Elithran ranks. Even the heir's eyes widened. You've already learned to channel the Guardian's veil, she murmured. I didn't learn anything, Ethan muttered. It's just instinct. The air around him hummed. He could feel every ship in orbit, their energy signatures beating like distant drums. He could sense where they would strike next, like the battlefield was whispering to him. The ground trembled again as pods began falling from the sky, sleek, black vessels slamming into the earth. They burst open to reveal towering soldiers in biomechanical armor, their faces hidden behind smooth masks of bone. The Dravith. Hold formation, shouted the golden-eyed commander from earlier. The Elithran warriors moved in perfect unity, their blades igniting in white fire. Ethan stepped forward. No, he said, we're not waiting for them to hit us. He raised both hands, and the power within him roared to life. Energy burst from his palms, pure, blinding light that cracked the air like thunder. The nearest Dravith squad was thrown back, disintegrating midair. Ethan didn't stop. He charged into the storm. His movements felt effortless, guided by something ancient within him. Every step left trails of energy in the air. Every strike of his fist or pulse of his will tore through the enemy ranks like they were made of smoke. Behind him, the Elithran warriors followed, surging with renewed courage. To them, he wasn't human anymore. He was legend. The battle became chaos, Beams of plasma streaking across the sky, explosions painting the horizon, and screams echoing through the crystalline valleys. Yet, through it all, Ethan felt calm. The rhythm of combat synced perfectly with the heartbeat of the core inside him. He could hear the air's voice through the connection they shared. The core responds to emotion, focus your intent, not your rage. He didn't need to answer, he understood. The more he let go of anger, the stronger the light within him grew. His energy expanded outward, forming waves of protection that shielded the wounded and disarmed the enemy. But then, a new energy cut through the battlefield, a dark, burning presence that made even the Elithran warriors hesitate. A massive figure descended from the lead Dravith ship, landing with a shockwave that sent debris flying. His armor was black as oil, his eyes glowing red beneath a jagged helm. Ethan froze. He knew that voice when it came. You should have stayed dead, boss. Krail. The man who had killed him back on Earth now stood before him, reborn, transformed, and far more monstrous. The helix insignia still marked his chest, but his body was no longer human. Cables ran through his veins, his right arm ended in a weaponized claw that pulsed with dark energy. Ethan's jaw tightened. You sold your soul to them. Krail smirked. I upgraded it. He lunged. Their clash sent a shockwave across the battlefield, scattering soldiers like leaves. Ethan barely managed to block the first blow, the impact rattled his bones. Krail's strength was inhuman, each strike like a sledgehammer. But Ethan wasn't the same man who had bled out 18 times. The light within him surged, and he met every strike with growing force. You think you're special because you glow now. Krail snarled, firing a burst of plasma that Ethan deflected with a sweep of his arm. You're still just a soldier, expendable. Not anymore, Ethan growled. He unleashed a blast of pure energy that hurled Krail across the battlefield. The ground split where he landed. Ethan advanced, eyes blazing. You tried to destroy something innocent. You called her a weapon. But she's more human than you'll ever be. Krail laughed. A broken, metallic sound. You still don't get it. Helix Corp made her. Made you. You're just another experiment. For a second, doubt flickered in Ethan's mind, but then he saw the air standing at the edge of the chaos, her hands clasped in prayer, light radiating from her heart. Her gaze met his, steady and full of faith. No, he said firmly. She made me. Ethan raised both hands, and the core inside him ignited fully. Light erupted outward, so bright it split the sky. Krail roared as the energy engulfed him, tearing through his armor and dissolving the darkness that sustained him. When it was over, nothing remained but ashes carried away by the wind. Silence fell. The enemy ships began to retreat, their crimson lights fading into the void. The Elithran warriors stood still, their weapons lowered. Then, one by one, they knelt. Ethan turned slowly. The air approached him, her expression soft and solemn. She held out the metallic heart shard, the same one she'd carried as a child. It glowed brighter than ever, the symbol of intertwined circles now burning with golden fire. You fought for one life, she said quietly. Now, that life fights for the universe. Ethan took the shard, feeling it pulse with warmth. What happens now? He asked. She smiled faintly. Now, you led us. The Guardian's light will guide 1,000 worlds. He looked out at the horizon, where the smoke cleared to reveal a sky of 3 suns rising in unison. For the first time, Ethan didn't feel lost or haunted. He felt alive. He had died as a broken soldier. He had awoken as something else entirely, something born from sacrifice, forged in fire, and destined to guard not just a world, but all of them.